I think that these people who are proponents of adding the fruit, the way they frame it is they do it because they have to, right? They do it because carnivore messed them up. And I think they're just being disingenuous with their intentions. I think they should just be like, hey, I like something sweet, so I'm just gonna add this because I like sweets, and that's cool. I mean,
Hey guys, thank you so much for supporting us and watching our videos. If you'd like to support us some more and get some of our merchandise like this awesome apron, be sure to check out our website at thecarnivorerevolution.com. Hey everyone, welcome to the Carnivore Revolution. I'm Serena, and today my special guests are Jay and Anderson. They are the Butterfield Boys is how I refer to them. They run the Butterfield page on Instagram and on YouTube. They also have a page called Butterfield Fitness where they talk primarily about fitness stuff. They're brothers who have chosen to live together and create this lifestyle where they promote a healthy eating pattern for people that includes lots of meat and fat along with weightlifting. And we're just really glad that you're here today.
yeah, thank you for having us. We're super excited to be here, and more than blessed, feeling blessed to be able to be here and share the message, continue spreading the message.
And you guys have such a great message as far as like the exercise along with the meat eating plan. And I just think that's really kind of, the key and the secret for most people that most people don't know. So let's start with your stories. I like to start with that so people can know how they relate.
Yeah, so I started carnivore, kind of entered it for the weight loss, but kind of stayed for the health benefits. So I started it like around 5 years ago. It was like April 2018, I want to say. I saw the Dr. Sean Baker podcast early January. I thought it was pretty crazy, but then a few months later, I was into it. And yeah, it's just having at it, eating a lot of meat, eating a lot of steak, being full, and actually not gaining that much weight from it. Just intuitively eating. But what made me stay was I wasn't planning for this, but I was seeing an ear, nose, throat doctor, ENT. And they have found polyps on my nose over here, which 10 years prior I had a surgery to have them removed, and then 10 years later, to that day, they have reappeared, and the doctor said, "Hey, here's some like a spray that you have to take and a nasal wash you have to do every day of your life, because to kind of slow down the growth or stop it." It kind of coincided when I started the carnivore diet. Obviously, I did that for like 3 days, and then because I can't keep a routine, a medication routine. I'm pretty bad at it.
It's always been bad about it. Oh, Jay, take your medicines and whatever, and he'll like forget about it after a few days.
Yeah, and it was like 6-7 months later, I came back. They kind of poked my nose with a little microscope or whatever they call it. And then they didn't find anything. Obviously, I didn't make at the moment. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought I was supposed to have this for like forever, but he was like, oh yeah, I guess like the treatment worked, and that was the end of that. But it wasn't until later that I was like, the only thing that really changed was like my diet, the thing that I was eating. So there's definitely something there, and being carnivore ever since. I use it for cutting and bulking, putting on muscle and taking off the fat. Love it.
Yeah, excellent story. And the polyps never came back, and it's something that you always struggled with for like your whole life, right? Just like going to the ENT consistently. I know because I also had like similar issues. So I grew up with my name's Anderson. I grew up with a whole host of digestive disorders and eating disorders, respiratory problems. I got put on with my first nutritionist when I was back in like the second grade. So I was just a kid, and I was just an overweight kid. My nutritionist gave me a low-fat, high-fiber diet. I actually pulled up the diet. I found it in my email like a couple of days ago, and the stuff I was eating, low-fat skim milk in the morning with some Cheerios, diet soda in my lunchbox, taking that to school, like whole wheat bread sandwiches, low-fat cheese, turkey ham. So very low fat. I could have ice cream on the weekends, but everything was portion controlled. Needless to say, I did see some weight loss like within the next 6 months that I worked with a nutritionist. But after that, there was just such a huge rebound because I just remember the nutritionist being very upset with me because she was like, you got to keep him under watch because the kid is, cheating outside of the diet. And, I was just a hungry kid. I remember the hunger. But then, in middle school, with exercise and everything, I was able to like control my weight more. But then when I went to college, everything just like rebounded back again. So went through several episodes like that in my whole life, just trying to figure out like, why am I struggling with my weight? Why is it such a prevalent issue in my whole life? Till Jay got me on keto, lost some weight on keto, gained weight on keto. I was like eating tons of salads and adding lots of fat. And come 2020, he showed me carnivore. I thought it was insane that he should at least be adding some celery to his diet, right? Because even just a little bit, he seemed to be fine. He got super lean. After 2020, my life changed. Like I haven't looked back. It's just what I like about it is that it's just such a simple system. It keeps me satiated because that's my issue. If you're anything like me, I really think that you would benefit from eating a carnivore way of eating. We can argue if it's like the most ideal diet or whatever, but I think that anyone that's gone through somewhat of a similar experience to me, and not everyone's like me, right? Like people have different situations, but I really benefit from that way of eating. Enjoying the best health of my life at 25 years old versus when I was like an athlete in high school or middle school.
And I think it speaks volumes that you were young, and probably at that point you should have been metabolically healthy, and you were eating a very healthy version of the standard American diet and yet not feeling good and not having it work. Like that right there, the things that you mentioned are like how most people dream to eat if they think that they're going to be eating healthy.
Exactly. I tried it and I work with the professionals, the accredited people. It just didn't solve my issues, until I
and then you mentioned,
responsibility.
yeah, right. That's the thing is we have to take responsibility. We have to do our own research and we have to be our own science experiments. And then you mentioned, Jay, you mentioned finding it on the Joe Rogan podcast with Sean Baker. And I think 90% of carnivores initially started carnivore because they saw that interview and thought this guy's nuts, and then decided that they would just try it. That was one of the first things I found too.
Yeah, it is incredible. He pretty much started this wave, or this new wave of just, I don't know, showing it to the world.
Yeah, it definitely blew up.
Yeah,
After Joe Rogan.
Yeah, even though there was like a community over there called like Zeroing on Health before that he joined. So there's some people, smaller group of longer term carnivores.
Yeah. And so let's talk about your relationship, because I love that as a mom. I think your relationship is such a blessing, because not many siblings grow up to be married and have the relationship that you guys have. So I just love it. So let's talk about that, because you guys have chosen to live together and work together. I think it's great.
Oh yeah. So we're brothers, 6 years apart, and very happy to live close to my brother. It feels like I don't know, it kind of works out pretty nicely once we because we agree on a lot of things. we're yes men to each other. But I don't know, I feel like when I was a teenager, that's when there was a gap, because I was 18, he was 12, so we were like two separate worlds. Both went to college, and after college, I guess we agreed to start to reconnect, because we were a little bit distant. And I really regret that. I wish I was like the more on top of it when I was during those years. But so we're making up for it now, and yes, so we're always talking and bouncing off ideas about carnivore, and I don't know,
Another crazy stuff.
Yeah, and a bunch of other stuff. No, but I love it. I love it.
It's awesome because they talk about, we always talk about how you have to surround yourself with people that believe the same things that you do. And in order to stick with it, that community is so important. And you guys have your own community.
Yeah.
We're labeled extremists by our whole families, but it's cool because we've been able to build a community online, which is, the way we look at it, we're just blessed to be able to, communicate this way of living. And yeah, I mean, Jay really has been the one who's been like really forward in his way of thinking, of just challenging convention. And I've kind of just like been his experiment. And every time I follow his advice, it just works out great for me. Even when it comes to training, to nutrition, and everything else, I owe a large part of my success in my health to him. And yeah, we after a while in 2020, when we moved back together, we were kind of shooting ideas like what ways can we continue to maybe spread this message. And we actually just started the Instagram page by being one of those pages that just like would post their meals. Then the more we learned about it, the more we saw like people were healing all these conditions and all these issues that were just, it was all new information to us. We're like, this makes no sense, right? But there's got to be a way in which we could continue to share that information and just, point people in a better direction, right? Like, hey, look, someone just cured their diabetes. They're managing their mental health disorders. They're managing their digestive issues that they struggled for decades with. And it's just, nothing short of magic in my view.
Yeah. And I think we have to keep kind of sharing it and spreading the message. I ran into a couple the other day that I hadn't seen in, I don't know, I haven't run into them in probably a year. And we started talking about food. And I don't usually share as much as I shared that day. I feel like it was a total blessing that I ran into them. It was, the timing was, I feel like it was definitely God, because she woke up that morning thinking she has to make a change. She's been on diabetes medication for 30 years, thought it was genetic because her mom was diabetic, her dad's diabetic, her uncle, her brother, like she had this whole list of people in her family that were diabetic. And so I explained to her that it's not actually hereditary in the way eye color and hair color hereditary. It's a learned behavior, obesity and diabetes. We have people talking about how obesity is genetic. Is absolutely not genetic, right? It is totally that you learn to eat the same foods. That's just how it happens. But you can definitely change that. And so we talked about that a little bit. And I looked in their cart. They had Salisbury steak and they had diet soda, and they didn't have real food in their cart. And we talked for about 30 minutes right there at the grocery store. And about 20 minutes after I left, she sent me a message and said, we emptied our cart and put everything back, and we bought eggs and steak and ground beef. And she sent me this list of foods, and they're on like day 5. Her blood sugar is usually 200. She has to take the medication every single day.
Wow.
And last night before she ate dinner, it was 94. That's like 5 days of her blood sugar, changing that much. I mean, it's just really amazing. If we know the information and we apply the tools to our own lives, the differences that we can make. Anderson, you said when you were talking earlier that you had an eating disorder. Can we talk about that? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was that and how did you deal with that? I didn't know this about you.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be like a series of episodes of just like binge eating. Eat clean during the week, and then the weekend would come and just completely like destroy myself. I remember I'd have to call out sick on Mondays, like not miss out on school because I'd be like completely messed up in my stomach. So it's funny because I'd frequent the doctors like almost every month. They were almost like my friends, the ENTs, and also like the stomach one. I had like had an endoscopy done on myself. They found out I had like a very mild esophagitis. I think that's what you call it in English. Just like the because of the acid reflux, just like burn of the esophagus. Mild. It wasn't like nothing too crazy. But then the doctor's response is like, he just has to take this. He just has to take this pill. He doesn't have to watch out for his diet or like cut out on his drinking, because this was in high school and you can drink after 18 in El Salvador. But yeah, he's doesn't have to cut down on the drinking, doesn't have to cut down on the diet. I was like, oh, cool, I'm good. Just insanity. But yeah, I mean, going through those periods, binge eating, and the shame that would come after from it, just like doing that damage to myself, and then repeating it again, whether that was and I have a tooth for everything, so that's also part of my problem. Whether it's savory or sweet, I'll have both.
Yeah, I talk about that sometimes too. Like, I've 20 cupcakes in 36 hours, or an entire bag of kale from Sam's that I sauteed in coconut oil and covered with salt. I've binged on that too. It doesn't really matter what it is. And most people don't realize that it's a kind of an eating disorder if they are watching it during the week and then pigging out on the weekends. That can totally be a binge eating disorder. So what do you guys think about ketosis and the way it clears up our brain? What do you guys think about that? I mean, I just think that's an amazing tool that we have.
Yeah, so ketosis is interesting because obviously, if you're having a high fat diet, well, I think the biggest thing that is a positive thing is people who have seizures, like this brain neurological disorder, that goes away once you go on a high fat diet, or it becomes very well managed. And that is achieved through ketosis, just having ketones in your bloodstream, which is produced from a high fat diet. It's healing to the brain. So I think that's just like a big telltale. It seems like, it could be argued that it's, can be a better fuel. You still need glucose. No one's trying to argue that you don't need glucose, but your body can produce that. But ketones seem to be just better for the brain. And what's the other aspect of it? Like it produces less reactive oxygen species, meaning that it produces less inflammatory reactions if you have more reactive oxygen species compared to antioxidants.
Ketones they seem to be a better brain fuel. They seem to be a better fuel just for the body overall. You get to experience steady levels of energy throughout the whole day. I am hard pressed to imagine or to reconcile this narrative that what is good for your brain and for the rest of your body and for like providing this energy isn't somehow eventually harmful to yourself as well, because there's this group of people who are pushing the narrative that, oh, ketosis is stressful, it's harmful, like you're really going to mess yourself up. You should look at it more as a therapeutical tool. And I'm not going to argue that ketosis is the end all be all, but I think that narrative is just ridiculous. I mean, these people who are making these claims, I think they mess themselves up because of other reasons, and it's not unusual to see these people who have also done like excessive fasting or excessive organ meat consumption, things like that, or just chronic under eating. I think there's other reasons why it might have not worked for them, but I definitely subscribe to the view that, ketosis is like our standard state, and it's not necessarily like this stressful state or fasting mimicking state. I mean, I think the body's pretty smart and can tell the difference between being in a fed state versus like going days without eating. I know I saw you were doing some fasting lately because you're doing the lion diet. I mean, the body's smart, right? It can tell the difference between going like 18 24 hours without eating versus eating. Like, it's just ridiculous to say that all ketosis is
a stressful state.
Yeah, a stressful state, a survival state. These people just I don't think they get it.
Yeah. And you guys and I mean, we know multiple people that have been in ketosis for years and years that are very healthy people. So you mentioned excessive organs, which takes us to fruit. Do you guys eat any fruit? Just because we both know, we all know. And so what do you think about people who add fruit in, saying that the carnivore diet long-term is not healthy?
So obviously people who say something is not long-term, is not healthy, doesn't really make sense to me, because if you're healthy today, you're very likely to be healthy tomorrow, and you can just draw that line. At some magical point, your like leg falls off or something. I don't know. But yeah, in terms of fruits, I mean, I think we all have like this innate love for something sweet or something like desserty. I mean, dessert is a type of like food everywhere. So a fruit kind of provides that. I guess the only legitimate concerns is the agrochemicals that you may find in fruit. But then you can, if you pick it from a farmer and the farmer and they grow it and you trust how they grow it, then I would say, treat yourself to something sweet every once in a while, maybe not every day. Because if you do it every day, you're kind of keeping up that sweet addiction, if you have that. So you got to be, self-conscious of where you are in terms of your sweet addiction. Other than that, other than taste pleasure, I don't see what the big deal is about fruits. There's no magical nutrient in them. The sugar in them is not magical either. It's just something sweet you want to enjoy if you want to enjoy.
Exactly. If you want something sweet, go ahead and have it by all means. It's much better for you than downing a pint of ice cream like I would back in the day. I think that these people who are proponents of adding the fruit, the way they frame it is they do it because they have to, right? They do it because carnivore messed them up. And I think they're just being disingenuous with their intentions. I think they should just be like hey, I like something sweet, so I'm just gonna add this because I like sweets, and that's cool. I mean, hey, I like sweets too, but I do my best to stay away from them. That's very different from saying like, oh, I'm gonna mess myself up with carnivore and just like inducing this anxiety in people who are confused about nutrition, right? Because now they're getting all this mixed signaling from the same group allegedly, and I don't think that's right, or I think that does more to distract from the real value of a carnivore diet, because we also have to consider who is like who is the audience that we're trying to target, who is going to listen to this, right? And I think that if you take someone who's metabolically deranged and you start, he's diabetic, high blood pressure, hyperglycemia, whatever, hyperinsulinemia, you take them and you tell them, hey, it's the ultra processed foods, sugar is good for you, so you should be having maple syrup and fruits and honey. I think this person's just going to completely mess themselves up, right? Like it's not the same thing, right? And yeah, it might be natural and whatever, but it's not what they need, right? We often advocate if the whole world just ate steak and eggs for a whole year, I am 100% convinced like the world would just become like such a better place. Big pharma would just be completely defunded. You know what I mean? Like I think all of our issues would be solved if we all just took that step.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I say that same thing. Like if everybody went carnivore, the pharmaceutical companies would just about go out of business. I mean, I think there would be very little need for 99% of the medications if everybody, even let's just say for, be like devil's advocate, not even 100% carnivore, but if everybody went very low carb, ketogenic, whole foods, the world would change and basically just be a better place, in my opinion. So, yeah. So, what about fasting? You guys, you do any kind of fasting? You mentioned that a few minutes ago. I've been dabbling in fasting again after about, I don't know, 18 months of not doing any kind of extended fasting. I mean, I still just have always eaten kind of in a 6 or 8 hour window, but I've just recently started doing some longer fasting. Do you guys do any of that?
Well, we're also kind of the same. Like we there are periods where we do it. There are periods where we don't do it. We've done it like the most maybe 1 or 2 day fast in the past couple of weeks. But before that, we haven't really been doing it for like a whole year or something like that. I think there is like excessiveness to it. Like it can be very addictive to see the weight go down and seeing fast progress really fast. So you just keep doing it over and over, but then I think you reach a point where you just don't feel any good and you're kind of stuck. And sometimes you're binge eating because you're like, oh, I'm just going to fast for 3 days. So I'm going to go all out here. And it doesn't even matter the type of food that I have because I'm going to do a 3-day fast after this or something like that. So I think it's a powerful tool. Definitely a lot of therapeutic benefits from it. But it can cut, if you don't handle it well, it can cut you can cut yourself with it.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jay. And so that's why I was actually going to ask, interesting, do you feel like at any point that's what that feels like to you? Because I know in the beginning for me, I felt like that feasting at the beginning, or some people call it priming, which I don't agree with the, eating as much as you possibly can, stuffing yourself for, a week or two before going into fasting. I feel like people should eat 3 really good, filling, nourishing meals every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, to set yourself up for success. But the priming, or, whatever you want to call it, to me felt like the return of an eating disorder. It reminded me very much of binging and restricting. Do you ever still feel like that with, just incorporating a little bit of fasting, or no?
Well, no, when it's a little bit, no. After this whole period of not doing it, it felt pretty good to actually, abstain for 1 or 2 days. I feel like it does teach you like discipline, right? Makes you actually appreciate the next meal that you're gonna have. So it is pretty good. But then, yeah, you can get in that cycle of repeating, where you start that binge of heavily restricting and heavy binging afterwards starts to manifest. So yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, we definitely went through a period of that in 2020. We did some alternate day fasting. So for like 6 or 8 weeks, we were literally doing like 36 hour fasts every other day. And then when the weekend would come, we're like, you're fatigued, like mentally exhausted. You're like, the willpower's down. And then you're like, yeah, step out of line a little bit here. It's okay. We're not eating for the next 36 hours. So yes, a little bit like that in the past, but currently, like, I just feel like we have the system, it works, and it's simple, just eat meat. So
Yeah.
the more we stick to that, the better we feel.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I have felt in this last few weeks of reincorporating the fasting. Because in the beginning, I gained weight with fasting too much and then not eating enough during my eating times. And I have found that I have much more control now that I realize I know that I wasn't eating enough before. And so on my eating days, I'm making sure that I'm eating 3, really big meals. And I do feel better. I don't feel like I'm doing that, like, binging thing anymore. And what about other biohacking stuff? Do you guys do any of that?
Well, I think what we do in the past, we've done like cold showers, perhaps. In the winter, we've dipped into the ocean, well, when it's been like freezing. But I think cold exposure is the most that we've done in terms of biohacking.
Yeah. I mean, try to be out in nature, receive some sunlight. I mean, just the original way. I don't know if I'd call that a biohack. And I tend to just focus on the big stones, right? Nutrition and fitness. The best biohack is building just some skeletal muscle, really. That's going to improve your life. That's going to do the most for you, in my view. And of course, fixing your nutrition, but focusing on the other things. I mean, we do try to like stay away from, the toxic chemicals, using ceramic pans for cooking, that kind of thing. We filter our water, the reverse osmosis filter.
Versus Moses,
I mean, that's as much as biohacking, I guess we try to do. Being mindful of like the beauty products we use, things like that. We make our own animal soap, moisturizers, things like that. But it's nice to do those things. I really think that there's a lot of fear mongering online about, avoid the Teflon, avoid all these things. I really think that, if that does anything for your health, it might be like that last 5 to 10% that you need. I don't really think that. I think oftentimes the messaging can go too far with those things and kind of distract away from like the main pillars, which I think are just like, fix your nutrition, make sure you're active, try to build some muscle, and then of course sleeping. I mean, sleeping is so important, right? Many people tend to overlook that. I know we do. So as far as biohacking, I don't know if we do any other fancy stuff.
Yeah, it's so funny that we have to consider getting lots of sleep biohacking these days because most people get such little amounts of sleep. And I love that you call it beauty products. I mean, I think that's great. Most men don't call it beauty products, but I love that. And I actually recently gave up shampoo. Have you guys tried that?
I thought about it, but I haven't really given it a try.
I've gone through periods where maybe I'll use it at most like once in a week, but yeah, I guess it's not really necessary.
Yeah. Well, it's been like 7 weeks for me since I've used shampoo, and I have never had curls like I have now. My hair feels
Really?
better than it's ever felt. The texture is different than it has ever before. I have these like spiral curls in my hair. I mean, and I attribute that to not using shampoo and not having anything kind of weighing my hair down. So I've just been rinsing it, like scrubbing it in the shower just about once a week. And other than that, I just use some water to kind of freshen it up every day. You guys should try the no shampoo thing. I think you'd really like it.
Yeah.
Have you tried like the ACV or eggs or anything crazy like that?
I did try eggs a couple of years ago, and I wasn't thrilled. It seemed like a lot to rinse out, and I couldn't get the temperature right. Like I would be in the middle of my day, and there would be something, and I would look, and it was like an egg white out for my hair. So I wasn't thrilled with that. But I have heard that if I feel like my hair needs to be washed, if it gets dirty, like in the ocean or I swim in a pool or something, that I can use some ACV on it. But I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, I've just heard that stuff. I've never tried it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't either. So what about weightlifting, men versus women? Do you guys find a difference there? What do you recommend for a woman lifting weights and a man lifting weights, like heavy weights, lower reps, or what do you guys think?
So our approach is to do all sort of rep ranges. You just have to face it between low reps, medium reps, which would be your traditional hypertrophy, and then to high reps, which is more like endurance style. And actually, it works for both, for both men and women. I don't think you can distinguish in terms of rep ranges and sets. There's no need to like distinguish between men and women. We both benefit from the same type of workouts. Obviously, there's going to be a difference between how much you can actually lift, and there's also a preference, right? We men kind of like, the upper body, and then women will lean towards the lower body. So it would, you just have to kind of pick your lower body exercises more for the women, and then your upper body exercises more for the men.
Yeah, but men don't skip leg day, and women don't skip chest day.
True.
Because you tend to overlook these things. But man, like hitting legs is such an important aspect of just growing muscle overall, because your legs are like the biggest component of all the skeletal muscle you have. And then oftentimes women are scared that they don't want to work out their upper bodies because they don't want to turn into She-Hulk. But if only were that easy.
I know.
If only were that easy. I wish I had that problem. But yeah, I think women tend to be hesitant towards starting lifting. But I think what you have to consider is, you look at a pound of fat versus a pound of muscle. You'll see that muscle is way more dense. And then if you're doing like an upper body workout, and this is why like you should work out your whole body, like 1 pound of muscle that you gain distributed throughout your whole body is like, that's not going to make you a bulky monster. It's just not going to happen, but it will do everything. It'll be working in your favor when it comes to, protecting you from injury, protecting you from any metabolic distress, and just making you a healthier, stronger person overall.
Yeah. And I know a lot of women kind of shy away from lifting weights and, stick with cardio. I think they call them cardio bunnies, the women who won't do any kind of weightlifting. They just want to do cardio. And that was me, 23, 24 years ago. That was what I did. It was only cardio. And the best shape I've ever been in was sprinting with lifting weights and no long distance running. And what do you guys recommend? Do you feel like people should be doing any kind of cardio or just weightlifting?
Well, yeah, it depends on your goals. Like if you're going through a cut, then eventually you do need to start doing cardio to help you kind of shave off the last few pounds of fat. But if you're talking about like the traditional, just eating intuitively, not really focusing on weight loss, kind of just staying at your weight. So let's say you're at your weight. There's no need to be doing cardio unless you actually enjoy it. I'm kind of in the field camp of doing less cardio. I'm happier, so I generally don't do. But I do try to be active, like get my steps, walk. If you want to consider walking cardio, then yes, I do it. But if not, then I do walk maybe 7,000, 8,000 steps a day, and I feel like that keeps me happy. That's the level of activity that I need in the day, plus the gym, of course. That keeps me really happy.
Yeah, I think when it comes to trying to lose weight, many people get caught in that trap of becoming cardio bunnies. And the problem with that is that, once you can lose the weight that way, but you cannot sustain that weight loss because now, like, you've reduced like your overall lean muscle mass as well, besides the fat. So in order to sustain that weight loss long term, like your priority should be building muscle, and not many people are like ready to go on a muscle building journey where you're not necessarily prioritizing leaning out, but just building that muscle, and then at a later stage using other tools like cardio or high intensity interval training, right, like sprints, to shed off those pounds. And for the next about 11 weeks, Jay and I'm trying to lose. I clocked in at 198 this morning. I'm trying to go down to 180. So we keep our cardio minimal currently, but in the next following weeks, maybe the next 4 or 6 weeks, we're really going to be turning that dial, using that lever to kind of just continue accelerating that fat loss, right? For this goal that I've set for myself, specifically.
And do you have macros that you usually recommend to people who are like just getting started with carnivore or low carb? Do you have macros that you like to go with?
Yeah, generally probably the most important is protein. Definitely, you can have 0.8 grams to 1 pound per gram of protein, and you can go as low as 0.6 to 0.8, and you can still see that benefit from that protein.
Yeah. 0.6 to 0.8 grams of protein per
pound
body weight. Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
And then then obviously for carnivore, you're focusing on fat, so you kind of, depending on how many calories you're having, that should look like 60% or up to 80% or even higher. It actually varies a lot between individuals. Some people feel good at 60, some people feel better at 80. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be, you don't have to stick to that percentage. You could probably fluctuate between those two depending on the day of the week.
Yeah, yeah. If you're like in the process of weight loss, it maybe introducing some fat refeeds, days where you like just load the fat a bit higher, will help you make you feel better. And usually, I think a good place to start is just a 1-to-1 ratio in terms of grams, one gram protein to 1 gram fat. That'll roughly put you in that like 75% fat, 25% protein range, and then from there, kind of just like work it out.
And what does a typical day of eating look like for both of you guys?
Heavily ground beef, honestly, ground beef and eggs, because that's just like Monday through Friday. That's like the easiest thing that you can prep or cook on the spot, or just have anywhere. So yeah, be like, well, this week, start of the day with coffee, lunch, maybe 10 to 12 ounces of ground beef, throw in a couple eggs, and then dinner, kind of a repeat of the same. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy. And then on the weekends, we probably throw in a steak, a couple of steaks, just to kind of
steaks grilled or whatever. Yeah, steak and eggs.
Yeah.
And it's funny, people will say, oh, the carnivore diet is so boring, like because there's not enough variety. I find that sometimes that there's too much variety. But also people in their regular life usually eat about the same things every day. If you grocery shop and you eat at home, you're pretty much eating the same things every day. That's why a box of cereal is a box of cereal, because people eat that every morning for breakfast, and then for lunch, people have like the same thing, either the salad or the turkey sandwich or whatever. But, people do tend to eat the same things every day, but they want to criticize us, for the carnivore diet being, boring. But I don't know. There really are days where I feel like I have too many choices. So if you had one piece of advice for people, what would it be?
Well,
just eat meat, lift weights, sleep deep. It's really that simple. I think we get caught up in a lot of the nonsense that we find on social things. And I say lift weights, but I mean, I don't even think that's necessary. I just think that, using the muscle in some form of fashion is going to be largely beneficial to just anyone, really, in any age group, across any gender, like whatever. It's just really, that's going to do the most.
Yeah. So yes, like using your physical body in this physical space, which it's easy to forget that we actually are living in a physical space and have to move around and exist. It is very important to kind of like develop motor skills, your muscles, your physical skills. But yeah, I guess my tip, after thinking a little bit, it would be like, people are constantly confused. So you have to find out the truth for yourself. Once you know the truth for yourself, because we can tell it to you, but people are never going to accept it. They're going to remain confused if they just listen to us and, oh, okay, so they say that, I believe that. Try it out for yourself, find out the truth for yourself. That way you can build a foundation, and then you will never be confused. Because now the news media can say whatever they want about eggs. If it's negative, I know they're lying. I know they're not being honest. Just like that. They're talking about cholesterol. I know this is just another scare gimmick or whatever. So yeah, find out the truth for yourself. We're here to help.
Awesome advice. Right. Yeah. Awesome advice. Where can people find you guys?
Yes, we're mainly on Instagram, but you can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, I guess now Threads. And we have a free Discord group, which, shout out Serena. We've seen her doing the hard work in our monthly challenges. But yeah, it's free. You can find the link in bio on our Instagram, and we hold weekly Zoom meetings Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Really just open up the space, and then we hold live Q&As on Instagram on Mondays, after which we do a show on YouTube where we kind of like break down a topic, try to go in depth and show you like different sources for you to see for yourself and make up your own mind. Of course, we'll offer our opinion, but really we try to make a case of showing you both sides, right?
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for visiting with me this morning and for answering all of my questions. You guys are really great.
Thank you. Yeah, you're great too, Serena. I appreciate you inviting us here and being able to share this moment. So thank you very much. And thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you so much, Serena.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time here on the Carnivore Revolution.
Yeah, thank you. See ya.